There's a voice deep inside every dad calling him to lead. Society, vices, inner demons, negative thoughts try to dampen and drown out that voice, but it never goes away. Your wife feels it, your children feel it, and your heart and soul feel it too. It's the voice that starts off as a whisper, but then becomes a calling to be the tip of the spear for your family. A calling to play all out and lead by example for your children. A calling to build a legacy that will go on for generations. A calling to be the warrior dad you were born to be. Dads, our children need us now more than ever. To be that beacon of hope, courage, positivity, and strength. It's time to rise as warrior dads together as a brotherhood. If you felt that twinge in your soul, it's time for the Warrior Dad Experience. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jeff Wickersham. So excited to have my special guest, Michael Anderson, on the show. Michael is a therapist and coach helping young parents to heal and reconnect with each other, their kids, and themselves. He's a therapist and he's trained in mindfulness and trauma healing. As a coach, he brings those skills to the table to help people become who they want to be. He leads a coaching program for men who want to overcome pornography. Michael, welcome to the show.
So good to be here. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to dive into this vice because I know, and we were talking backstage, how I've dealt with it for 30 plus years. I'm having conversations with my sons about it. I have dads that I coach through the Warrior Dad Experience. They're having conversations with their sons about it as well. So this pornography, this concept of it, how did you get into helping dads overcome it? And would love to just kind of dive into the science, what it does to us, and then how do you help dads and get through it? And I'm sure we'll have some great back and forth.
Cool. Yeah. So how I got into it, I actually kind of stumbled into helping this population. I was trained as a marriage and family therapist. Okay. And so I was doing, during grad school and coming out of grad school, I was actually doing a lot of couples therapy. Mm-hmm. And pornography was a big, it was like a pattern that I was seeing with couples, right? And they were kind of trying to work through. And then I started kind of getting individual clients onto my caseload who were wanting to work through it. And it was like time and time again, I kept seeing really awesome, good guys who really wanted to show up as the best version of themselves. And they just had bad information about how to heal and overcome pornography. And so then I started working. I still do work with this supervisor who specializes in pornography healing, and I got fascinated with it. Mm-hmm. And from there, I just kind of kept taking off. And I'm a young dad, and so I know how it feels to have the weight of the world on your shoulders and wanting to show up the best you can for your husband, for your wife, for your kids, for everything. And so it just I really resonate with that population. And so I think from there, it just kind of kept snowballing and taking off.
Gotcha. Okay, so couples counseling, pornography kept coming up. I know it was definitely a challenge that I brought into the marriage with my wife. Yeah. And then became a crux of, let's say, for example, she wasn't in the mood. It was go watch pornography, right?
Sure,
and so I'd be interested to hear some other dynamics you heard in your experience, and what were those challenges, and how was it kind of a bad outlet, obviously, for men and dads and husbands to kind of sedate themselves and kind of still fulfill that need, even though it wasn't really truly being fulfilled with their wife.
Totally. Well, and to build off of that, what I kept seeing and finding is that pornography, and the reasons why men use pornography most of the time predate the marriage, predate the relationship, right? Our brain is kind of wired for protection, right? And I think there's not enough teaching of skills of how to emotionally soothe, how to process through emotions, how to work through those types of things. And so what a big theme I kept seeing is these men trying to explain to their partners, right? Like, listen, like, this is not about you, right? Like, it's not that you're not good enough for me. Like, I love you. You're the best part of my life. This is just how I learned to soothe. This is how I learned to cope with things. And so that was a big pattern. That's been a big pattern in working with couples is helping to process the trauma that creates when one partner feels like this is all about me. I must not be good enough. Right. And this other partner is so desperately wanting to tell their wife, right, or their girlfriend that, like, no, this isn't about you. This is my own personal hurt healing journey that I got to go on. And that's been a big theme in my work with couples.
So guy brings it, right? It's already a habit. It's already something that he's been doing maybe for 10, 15.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to some dads who have sons that it's like 13, then they've stumbled upon it, right? Unfortunately, it's at the palm of our hands and our iPhones, our iPads, the laptop, like you can get access to it in the blink of an eye. So somebody brings it into the marriage. What is the husband experiencing? Because he wants to detach from it, but it's such a powerful pull. Like, how does that process kind of play out?
Yeah. I kind of said this earlier. I think, tell me if this answers your question. I think there's a lot of unhelpful messages about how we move on from pornography. And what I mean by unhelpful, I mean, like, it just doesn't bear out with like what research shows is the most effective way to heal and move on from porn. I think we kind of get the wrong. The way I kind of phrase it with people is we just get the wrong tools. We get the wrong. It's like we're told to build a house, but all we're given is like a shovel, right?
Okay.
And we're made to feel stupid that we can't build a house with a shovel, right? I think men are told oftentimes that, like, you gotta just stop. Like, this is a willpower issue. Like, if you just really wanted it bad enough, if you really loved your family enough, you would just stop, right?
Okay.
Or you've got to just like, I'll kind of boil it down to this. I think a lot of times we think it's a behavior change issue, and it's not. Okay. Healing from porn is not a behavior change issue. And so all the techniques we use to change behavior, like willpower, right? Trying to count days, trying to distract yourself from urges. It is not helpful for long-term sustainable, like, healing and transformation, if that makes sense.
It does. Okay. So you brought up a couple of things that are like right in my wheelhouse. Yeah. I love tools, right? Having tools to be able to take on what is happening in our lives or what life throws at us, right? We got to have tools. We got to have, I like to call it protocols, right? If this happens, then I do this, as well as, not a behavior change issue. So let's dive into both of those two areas, right? Yeah. Of like, what are some tools to help that process, right? Instead of building a house with just a shovel, what else can we equip, the men and the dads with to make that shift? Because I always like to say, hey, it can happen pretty quickly, but you got to be equipped with the right tools, to your point.
Yeah. So here's three. I'll just get here. Tell me if this is helpful. I'll just kind of go over three kind of main pillars that I work with dads. Yep. And then do broad overview. And if you have any additional questions, let me know and I can go deeper on.
Shoot, that works.
So I think three big pillars, tools, protocols, right? That we work with a lot is one, understanding that our brain is wired to protect, right? From physical pain, from emotional pain. And so whether it's pornography, whether it's overeating, whether it's work, whether it's video gaming, like whatever it is, pornography can become just one method that our brain works to protect from underlying pain, right? Okay. And sometimes that pain's really obvious. It's stress at work, right? You don't know, not really knowing how to soothe from like family dynamics that are hard, right? Sometimes it's like underlying traumas, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's like tool number one, is recognizing that when I say it's not a behavior change, the reason why is because it's like porn is the Band-Aid. And in order to heal, you've got to actually get to the wound underneath.
Right.
You heal the wound, you don't really need the Band-Aid anymore, if that makes sense. Right?
Yep. Makes total sense.
The second pillar, and I think this is really important because it's super counterintuitive to what we think about how to heal from porn, is that battling urges actually makes urges stronger. Like the idea of like fighting our urges, resisting them, using willpower, trying to avoid them, distract them, actually makes urges feel stronger, makes them feel more powerful. And so the opposite is actually learning how to really actually deeply feel your urge and allow it to process through you.
Okay.
And then the third, I really deeply believe that porn is an identity issue. I kind of use like there's like sorry, I had a cold that like settled right in my throat. So sorry for the
It's all good. We're getting through it, man.
As long as my voice doesn't like crack too much, I think we should probably be okay.
That's great.
But I really do think it's worth taking a lot of doing some deep exploration and realizing, how do I view myself and how does that feed this pornography use, this habit? I think self-limiting beliefs, how we view ourselves, how we view overcoming porn. I think there's a lot of unhelpful messages about like porn is impossible to overcome, right? Like once an addict, you're always an addict, right? It'll always kind of be in your life. Like there's a lot of unhelpful beliefs that formulate an identity around porn that I think you have to reforge. And so I really believe porn is an identity issue. So those are kind of three things, right? The wound underneath, battling urges makes them feel stronger. And it's all about reforging your identity around pornography.
Yep. Okay. So let's start from the top there of where you just were at, right? Identity issue and limiting beliefs. I mean, one of my limiting beliefs when I just wasn't worthy, right? I was never good enough.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I can connect the dots as you're talking about it.
Yes.
No wonder why I was probably primed for going down that pornography route, right? Because I got a dopamine hit when, I watched it and took care of myself. Like it's crazy how you can connect the dots when you think about that. So, what's a way to kind of do a deep dive? Is it asking yourself, hey, how do I truly feel about who I am as a person, as a dad, as a husband, as a man, as a leader, right? It sounds like that would be a powerful question for somebody to ask themselves.
Yeah. Here's, I think, a really powerful way to do some of the exploration. I think it does help. I think it really does help to have either a therapist or a coach to walk you through this process. Yep. But here's how I like to conceptualize it. You said you use that belief of like, I don't feel worthy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would, you tell me if I'm wrong here, but I would make a guess here that it wasn't in every scenario that you didn't feel worthy, right? I'm sure there's other scenarios, other contexts where you felt pretty confident in yourself, where you felt like you were an expert in something. Is that accurate enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would, when I work with clients, help them realize, okay, there are different parts of you. Okay. There is a part of you that feels unworthy. That's not your full story, but there's a part of you that feels unworthy. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask you to get really curious as to why there's a part of you that feels unworthy, right? There's actually a whole model of therapy that I use a lot. I don't know if you've ever heard of internal family systems.
I have not.
Basically, it kind of goes under this idea that we're all made of these different parts of us, with different fears, beliefs, ideas. They all get kind of activated in different contexts, right? Mm-hmm. And we can actually get to know these parts of us, and through curiosity and self-compassion, we can get to know that, okay, there's a part that feels unworthy. Spend some time with that part of you. What experiences have led to you feeling unworthy? And start to actually develop a relationship with those parts of you that hold those limiting beliefs, and actually start to treat them with like love and compassion. That's a really high level way of doing it. Let me know if you have any questions on that. I hope that makes enough sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. I mean, I don't know if you know who Phil Stutz is, but I love the work that he does. And he did a special on, I don't know if it's Netflix, but with Jonah Hill. And it's like part X. And like Jonah Hill was severely overweight. And he said, you need to be kind to that little boy that was overweight and probably picked on and stuff like that. And I look back, and my brother and I connected the dots about 10 years ago, where I'm the oldest of three, younger brother 3 years younger, younger sister 6 years younger. But when my sister was born, my mom always wanted a girl. Well, my brother and I had to show my mom things we did for attention. We brought it actually into, both of us brought it into our marriages. And we would say, hey, look what I did. And my wife was like, what do you want, a cookie? Like, and it didn't connect until we had a discussion. And it was like light bulb moment. My brother's like, holy crap. I say the same thing to my wife. And we were like, okay, my mom still loved us, but at 6 for me, at 3 for my brother, we made a decision that we weren't worthy of my mom's love. And that's how it kind of transformed into that limiting belief in my life. So it definitely hits home from there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, and just an add, this sounds kind of counterintuitive. I think for a lot of us guys, especially like it feels counterintuitive to like actually love the parts of us that we tend to hate, you know? Mm-hmm. But like I just thank you for sharing that, because I just want to really highlight, there is a lot of healing that happens when you learn to treat these like often really young parts of us with the love and acceptance that they were needing all those years ago.
Right. And it kind of leans into number 2, right? Battling the urge, it makes them stronger, right? So dive into, let's unpack that one a little bit, right? Like, one, willpower is never sustainable, right? You have peaks, you have valleys. It's not gonna set you up for success. But explain the battle. When you battle the urges, it makes them stronger, and how that works.
Yeah. So let's carry this idea of parts a little into this example, right? Mm-hmm. So almost every client I've worked with says that they really hate this part of them that uses pornography, right? Okay. They hate it, right? Mm-hmm. Of course they do. To them, it's like ruining their life. It's ruining their marriage. It's getting in their way, and they spend so much time battling it, right? Right. And here's the opposite. Here's why the opposite actually works better, right? If you consider the same way you consider these like parts of you that hold limiting beliefs, right? So you have a part that feels I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, right? The same way, actually, the best way to heal that part is to go to it, actually spend time with it, and show it love, and let this part know, like, hey, I'm here. It's okay. You're good, right? There are parts of us that think they need pornography in order to soothe, in order to find connection, in order to protect in some way, right? So when we battle this part of us that gets activated, right? Okay. It just further enhances the stress response in our body, right? So we're stressing ourselves out even more by battling this urge, right? But also we're missing out on the opportunity to actually go to that part of us that is feeling scared right now. Mm-hmm. That's feeling like I need this, right? And like holding it close and being like, hey, I'm just going to actually allow you to be here. And I'm going to let you know that you're not bad. Mm. You're not bad that you think you want pornography, right? The pornography is damaging and it's not helping. So we're not going to use right now, but I'm not going to try and get rid of this part of me. Right. Mm-hmm. And you can do that through a lot of mindfulness ways. You can do that by actually like allowing yourself. Well, I guess we can go into that if you have any questions, but there's some really good mindfulness techniques about how to actually just sit with the urges and not shame them anymore and not battle with them anymore.
Let's dive into them.
All right, cool. So here's just like one really, really simple one. So if anyone's listening, this is like something they can just like take with them in practice. But this is like a really good starter, like exercise. You okay being kind of a guinea pig?
Let's do it. Yes.
All right. So Jeff, I just want you to take a moment and will you just notice, how does your shirt feel on your body? Like in neutral language, describe to me how your shirt feels.
It feels comfortable, good, nice and tight in the arms and the chest where I like it.
Okay, nice. Nice. Good work. Yeah. So are you your shirt?
I am not my shirt.
So you can feel your shirt, but like you don't identify as it.
Correct. Yes.
Right, cool. So now what I want you to do is think of like an emotion that you don't usually like to feel, right? Maybe it's stress, right? Maybe it's anxiety, whatever it is. Maybe let's go with stress if that's okay.
Yep, let's do it.
And will you just describe for me in neutral language, right? Don't say, oh, it's terrible, it's the worst, I can't handle it, right? Just like almost as if I've never experienced this feeling before. If you were to like wear stress like you wore your shirt, describe for me how it feels in your body.
Yeah, I'd say my heart races a little bit. I'd say, I just have this sense of being a little bit overwhelmed and looking to get things done. Those would be a couple things that pop out.
Nice. Let me throw out a couple common ones. Do you feel like tightness in your chest at all? Tightness in your shoulders? Anything like that?
Little bit in the chest.
A little bit. Okay.
Yep.
Those are some common things that clients say. I just want to check on that, right? So one mindfulness exercise, as I go through this with clients, then what I have them do, and we won't do this here just for the sake of time, but like I'll actually have them like close their eyes. Mm-hmm. And just instead of focusing on all the dramatic things their brain says about the stress, right? Like, this is bad. I can't feel this. I got to change this, right? Just sink down into your body and just allow yourself to feel the tightness in your chest. Mm-hmm. Allow yourself to feel the heart racing. And when all it is just that, right? And we jump out of all the dramatic things we say about it, we start to realize, actually, I'm like, okay to feel this.
Right.
It's really not that bad. I don't have to be scared of this feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It totally does. And I always love to say the frame we see things is so incredibly important. I mean, Kelly McGonigal, just on the side of stress, she's got a book called The Upside of Stress, and how we're programmed to feel like it's terrible and it's going to kill us and all these things. And that leads it to doing that, where if you saw it as, hey, this is raising my game. It's raising my mental focus, then you're going to have a different impact on you than how so many people interpret it. So I love that piece. Let's go to number one real quick. The brain has that need to protect.
Yeah.
And why is that so important when we think about pornography and men?
I think for a couple reasons. One, I think it gives us the opportunity to decrease the shame around it. I think a lot of the messages that we get as men in pornography is you're doing this because you're weak. You're doing this because you're gross, right? You're perverted in some way. Mm-hmm. This is like a heart issue, like your heart's just not in the right place, right? You need to change that, right? And so when we better just understand brain chemistry, right? We just better understand, okay, you're fine. This isn't a weak thing. You're not gross. You're actually an awesome dude. You're actually here getting help, right? Like, you're actually really abnormal, that you want to, like, in the best way possible, that you're wanting to like heal and work through this. Once we better understand, like, our brain is just wired to protect, and it'll kind of go to whether it's porn, whether it's whatever, it'll find strategies to protect against underlying wounds, right? I think the second reason why this is important is I tell clients all the time, this is about way more than porn. Like, healing from porn is about way more than just stop using porn. This is about you actually finally getting to do some deep diving underneath to like some unprocessed pain that you don't know yet how to deal with. You start to deal with that, you heal from that, dude, like, sky's the limit, man, on what you can accomplish once you've healed those underlying wounds, right? So I think those are a couple of really important reasons why it's important to understand that.
Yeah, and I think the science is so important, right? There's not anything inherently wrong with you. It's just how your brain is wired, right? And that's just a fact of it. And giving ourselves some grace. And I always like to say, instead of beating ourselves over the head with a hammer, getting a flashlight. And you mentioned it before, Michael, getting curious.
Yeah.
Okay, doing some deep work. And I will tell you, in my experience, I mean, I gave up alcohol nearly 22 months ago. Dude, that combination of giving up alcohol, because many of the times I was not feeding that porn addiction, but then the day after drinking, I was just weak mentally, and that was snowball, and that would be another piece to the puzzle. So when you do the deep work and when you uncover these things, and it's about the journey. Yeah. And you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. We all battle these things. I like to say, if I went outside my house today and teed up a golf ball, and I'm not a good golfer by any stretch, but I hit a driver, I'd probably hit 7 houses with other dads that are facing these same things. Yeah. And that's why it's so important we have these conversations, because as dads, as leaders of the family, especially if you got sons, they're going to battle these same things. And I'm having deep conversations with my boys now. And it's important to help them navigate, because when I was growing up, you didn't have it in your phone, a supercomputer. You had to mail away for a Playboy or something, right? Where now it's immediate, And it's so dangerous from that perspective. So
Yeah.
what real quick before we end, what advice would you give to a dad that maybe has a son that has maybe started that route, and how to redirect or help them?
Yeah. Couple things. First off, for someone who feels like pornography is against their value system, right? Because not everyone wants to move. Some people, it's not against their value system, right? Which is totally fine. But for someone who's like, I don't want porn in my life. You got to understand that this is a lifelong thing. This is a lifelong journey. You will all, like, throughout their whole life, you will get exposed to porn. Your son will get exposed to porn, right? He's not going to be perfect at it. There'll be times he views. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a lifelong journey. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's so important if a dad just wants to know, where can I start? Do your very best to just decrease the shame out of talking with your son. Okay. Right. Okay. And like celebrate the fact that it's normal that he's a sexual being, right? Sex is good. Sex is awesome. Right. Mm-hmm. And just realize, like, normalize that for him. Like, no wonder you're curious about this, man. You're fine. Like that, it's because you're human, right? Sexuality is great. Sex is great. And just decrease that shame. And then once they decrease the shame, then you can start talking to them about, okay, now what do our values say to do, right? Now, how do we give you the tools to help live more in line with your values? But if you're looking for just a place to start, it's so important to just decrease the shame out of pornography use.
Love that. Well, I've loved the conversation. I'm going to ask you to come back because I know we can go a little bit deeper. Michael, where can people find you?
Yeah, would love it. Thanks, Jeff, for having me on. I'm most active on LinkedIn, and so you can just search me, Michael Anderson, on LinkedIn. Actually, there's like 1,000 Michael Andersons just probably in Utah alone, which is where I'm from, on LinkedIn. But maybe I can send you a link to put on the show notes. I can't remember if I did or not.
Yep, I do have it.
And then if you're interested in learning more, I actually have a link to a free masterclass that you can just watch. I go into more detail about those kind of 3 pillars. And obviously there's more to it, but those 3 pillars are a good place to start. So you can watch, it's like 35 minutes long. You can watch the free training and get some more information that way.
Awesome, Michael. Appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Dare to be uncommon, love, lead, legacy, create a legendary day. And I'll talk to you soon.